It's all like bugged out. He didn't even say anything. The innkeeper normally says some random shit at the beginning. And we lost the whole Whizbang expansion now live. Obviously, we saw all this stuff last time. So today's going to be the last episode of me playing as the Druid deck, even though normally I do it for the whole course of the month. But like last month was when we were doing the Druid for the anti-spell thing, because I'm going through all these classes with old decks that I used to use, sort of themed gimmick garbage ones, but that I enjoy. So I wasn't entirely satisfied with what we did with it last month, so I tried it again this month. So effectively going into next month, since Whizbang is the theme of the expansion, obviously I'm going to do what I often have done with other expansions, or at least I did it with like the last one, just by sheer chance. Like that kind of validates to show I'm not going to do it just because it's the Whizbang expansion. I'll use the old Whizbang and then I'll use the new Whizbang too. So that'll be what I do, you know, basically next month. I'll consider, even though it's the 31st, I'll consider that next month, just because we've done this Druid one maybe for long enough. Even though, see, it's not even that I'm looking to like win or be super successful and get super far with it, because normally we just get to like silver 10 or something. It's not going to go super far because we don't play enough and it's not good enough. But it's more like I just want to see some of these cool fun interactions that come about because of it, right? Like you win your way. And of course we got the keyword of my dreams that I always ask for, the you know, it's fucking March, almost April, but yet they're doing this now. Like, why not do this January 1st or whatever? But I guess they do it with the first new expansion of the year, because that's what I was wondering. Like, oh, if they were going to make a change like the elusive thing, wouldn't they have done it then? But they're doing it basically as part of the Whizbang expansion, even though they would say they're technically not. It's because of the year of the Pegasus, but whatever. For so long I made fun of that, like can't be targeted by spells or hero powers or whatever. And how fitting is it? That's such a fortuitous moment. I happen to be using this anti-spell deck anyway, right, with all these elusive minions in there at the exact same time. Of course I use these a lot anyway. We have the mage one to go through too once I get to mage, but like, basically, what are the chances we were playing this exact deck that uses those minions at the time that this comes out? It's not like I know these things ahead of time. I never really pay attention. I didn't even know what the expansion was until a couple episodes ago when I saw it on the launcher. But no, we'll do next month the Whizbang times 2. We'll try the old Whizbang to try the standard decks from Whizbang's expansion, which again, I did that with like the last expansion going into New Year's. Like, will Whizbang survive until midnight, because we were doing like a New Year's episode, and of course he didn't, but whatever, it was still a fun format that we had been doing. That we had done that for like a couple weeks though, so maybe he had won a couple games in a row at least, which is all you can play in the course of like an hour episode that I would do once a week, but still. So he had lasted at least like maybe 3 weeks or whatever leading into that. And I think the beginning of the month I didn't start with saying that he only has one life, but then I did it like a week in or something. But that icon at least looks pretty cool. But no, I don't know what the twist mode is. Maybe I should look at that too. Or it's the same one that's going to be like, oh, it rotates through the expansions all the way until the current time through the history of the game. So that is a fun thing. But the fact that it only gives you 1 day for each one is a little bit silly. You know, I've always asked for that same sort of format, but they should do it every month. They add a new one. But not necessarily for the twist mode, but that was what classic mode could have been, where they don't just keep it classic in that state forever. They keep rotating through the expansions, and it wouldn't really be that hard for them to do that. Yeah, let's try to get what we can. Like, we should theoretically be able to use this now, because, like, why not? It's almost the end of the month, so what wouldn't be usable here? It makes no sense. Unless they shrink it down. Like, it adds a new expansion, but it doesn't count it as wild. Whatever, I don't really care about that too much. Following sets for no wild doesn't really make a difference to me, because I mostly only play wild anyway. In fact, even if I use Whizbang to play the standard decks, ironically, it would have to be in wild, so maybe they'll make that change too. You should always be able to play Whizbang in standard because you're using standard decks, right? So you should always have that option, but either way, it gives you a chance to try the new expansion like I always do in general. Or I like that mechanic as an idea. Like, whenever a new expansion comes out, instead of doing arena now, since I don't find arena as interesting as I used to, you could just do that and see what the new decks and cards are like that way, without having to waste your dust on them or whatever, dust that I don't have. So what we need to work towards is actually having the other Whizbang though, the new one, which is, yeah, this expansion gave me 2 things I always asked for. I always said, oh, there should be like a souped up better version of Whizbang, or at least when I heard about the expansion, that seems like the natural extension that does kind of the same thing but even more fun, right? So it'll be like all these wild decks, one of Whizbang's experimental decks, and the whole 4/5 statting Cho and Yeti line doesn't even matter, because you don't, you know, he's not even really in the deck, at least not in the other form. He's not. Deck of villains. So I wonder what these actually are, and there's so much potential to add more or to change them or whatever. Like, this is exactly the kind of thing this game gets credit for, even by people who, you know, oh, it's you know, limited in scope. It only has 30 cards and this and that. It's casual card game, kind of, at least. Not as casual as like fucking PvZ Heroes and stuff like that. But the one strength of it is always these cards like Renounced Darkness, Ungoro, Explore Ungoro, Zinazari, some of my favorite mechanics. And so yeah, I'm not going to worry about that necessarily right now, but we'll go through both of those. We'll kind of rotate, right? We'll play as one. Maybe each episode they each get one life, so we play as one until we lose, and then we play as the other one, and then we rotate back or whatever, something like that. So that'll be what we do next month, because it's the perfect excuse to do it. It's a new expansion, so I would want to do this anyway, arguably, although I did just recently do it, so normally I wouldn't. From the prestigious Westfall Wonderfuls. And then after his work at Boomsday Labs, he's taken what Dr. Boom taught him and applied it to the most important inventions of all, toys. And then obviously we would want to try this one out because it's the most fun card of this expansion. Just the fact that it happens to be Whizbang is incidental, because obviously, you know, normally if there's any sort of transformative card like that I always talk about, that would be very special as well. Like something equivalent to Renounced Darkness just changes your whole fucking deck. And again, none of these cards are usually very good. Like, I guarantee you those decks aren't that great, but maybe in the best ideal circumstance it can be okay. But it's just for the fun factor of it. So like somebody else will be using the same exact thing, and it'll be Whizbang versus Whizbang, and that makes it fun. But you know what's one card that I would want them to do is a Nozdormu that is non-consensual Nozdormu, where you're able to actually keep that, where you're able to force the game to be 15 seconds no matter what, right? Whether they have it in their deck or not. And it could make you pay a price for it too. Like, oh, you can only have 15 cards in your deck or something, although that might benefit you too. You don't really want to do that until you're guaranteed that you have some plays first. The whole embiggen thing. Yeah, let's see if we can get to silver 10. I guess I could do this a little bit next time too to segue into it, but I mostly want to... I think we've done this one long enough because, you know, we did it the entirety of last month too. So basically I was going to segue into Shaman, the next class, because I want to fuck around with Evolve and some gimmicks there, because that's one gimmick deck that I didn't even use too much, because I just didn't play Shamans that much, you know, throughout the history of the game. So if we recap, we've done Warlock for Renounced Darkness and a couple other things I can't even remember exactly what. There's one other kind of deck that I did with that. But we did Warlocks, Renounced Darkness, something else. Then we did Warriors, Explore Ungoro, Zinazari, Iron Juggernaut. Then we did some of my favorite decks of all time. Then, you know, some of my favorite cards of all time, like Renounce. I guess you can't call it a deck, Renounce or Explore Ungoro, Zinazari. But then one of my favorite decks in the Iron Juggernaut deck. And they did make the Iron Juggernaut better at some point since I had last used it, which was probably still a long time ago. But they made it better to the extent of it has a death rattle too, and on top of the battle cry. Not that it's still going to be that good of a deck. So we did Warlock, Warrior, then I think we did Hunter, and the Hunter was for the purposes of it's possible we did Whizbang like in the middle there somewhere, like segueing into the new year, and then maybe I did Hunter in January, then in February I did Druid, and in March I did Druid. So maybe December I had done like Whizbang. So we did Whizbang, which doesn't count obviously as a class. Then we did obviously Hunter, we tried Karnas's Brood, we tried to make some other fun ones just revolving around Rexxar the hero, because I love the whole zombies mechanic. You can kind of psychologically identify what kind of things do I find fun, and that's exactly what they are. Like you know, the crafting a custom zombies, it doesn't even mean it's that good, although it was a really good effect at the time, probably the best one, although arguably the Jaina's one was really good too as far as the hero power. And obviously Gul'dan's battle cry was the best with summoning all the demons. But the point is that you're basically in a position where, you know, crafting a custom zombies is such a fun, dynamic, transformative effect. Whether it's good or not, it's just enjoyable. So we did that, and then we did the Druid in both February and March, just because, again, I wasn't able to really enjoy it last month. And even this month, we haven't seen quite the interactions that I want to see, like where you get this really strong board that's all elusive and they can't do anything about it. I guess I can finally call it that and actually be correct. But I guess evasive might have even made more sense, because so many of the cards are called evasive, but even then they cuck us. Right, like evasive Feywing or this or that. This is the problem with it, though. Sometimes you just get mana screwed on your curve, and it's not like it's not a well-balanced deck in terms of its curve. It is very well-balanced. It's just your weak point is like the 3 cost, or the weak point is the fact that you have only 1 copy like of each card, basically. Yeah, let's see how far we can get to this grand finale for the Druid, and it's even gotten special treatment with this extra chance. Because like at first I didn't have Loatheb, so then I wanted to add Loatheb, or I did it kind of in the twist mode, and then I got sick of the twist mode. That would have been like last month's twist mode, though. Okay, dude. Like whatever he's doing, it almost doesn't matter because I can't really do anything about it. Increase stats +3/+3. I mean, you may as well just do this, I guess. It makes them a little bit tougher to kill. And just try to survive. I was going to put Guff in here, but then I didn't even see the point of it. It doesn't really synergize. Or like Malfurion I find kind of enjoyable to use, even though he's not really that exciting. Just like gaining armor attack with the Scarabs as the battle cry. But no, my favorite hero was probably Rexxar, even though Jaina I would probably say would be considered the best, because that whole lifesteal and the fact that it gives lifesteal to your elementals in general too was something maybe untapped sometimes. Like it's not even the water elementals, just all your elementals. But that was almost too strong of an effect that it could have, you know, synergized with so many other things, although I don't really remember exactly what. You know, even here we might not die because he might not be able to get through this, is the whole point. We don't really get a chance to play Lorthamar. And of course, we've enjoyed using a lot of these cosmetics along the line. So we still have Shaman to use for Evolve. We still have Mage to use for some of the similar anti-spell things that we're doing here, right, with Counterspell, but some of the evasive, elusive stuff as well. And then, you know, evasive, elusive can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. Hexproof, untrickable. How many names for it do you need? But we finally do get one. Imagine that. It took them 10 fucking years. They're so goddamn lazy or uncreative. You had the fairy dragon in the game, and this is how you treat him. For 10 years, you can't just come up with a goddamn keyword. You have to do this long mouthful for my favorite mechanic, which is can't be targeted by spells or hero power. You have to say it every time. Okay, dude. Very one-sided matchup, but at least if I got to play on curve a little more, it would have been a bit more fun. Now you see what I mean. Like, the fun factor is there if you could just get Lorthamar and you could just survive. But so many of the times we get denied that. But no, we did, we've shown off a couple cosmetics in doing this. For Warlock, we had N'Zoth, which I was excited to finally get. We just got lucky and it appeared on the shop one day, because I always lamented missing out on it, because I didn't want to buy. At that point, I never bought anything in the game, and you would have to have bought the whole $80 fucking expansion. So instead, I got it for like $5, so I saved like $74, because you had to pre-order like Voyage to the Sunken City or whatever. And so I did, you know, show off N'Zoth there. This one, I don't think I really showed off anything. It would have almost been nice, because I'm almost at 1,000 wins with Warrior. It would have been nice to show off that one, right? The Corrupted Garrosh, even though I don't like it that much. And then, obviously, we did Whizbang. Doesn't really have any special meaning to it, unless I could have made the gold Whizbang, just to really flex it, but I don't have that kind of dust to spare right now, because I always waste it. Then Hunter, I showed off, like, the Sylvanas 3D portrait, and some other Sylvanas, too, maybe. Just like the regular Sylvanas, maybe the Banshee, but then the 3D one who's like Ranger Sylvanas, who I liked. I basically liked all the 3D models except for that stupid ass clown face Arthas where he's doing some stupid smile that just makes him look like a clown, and then hence the name Clown Face Arthas that I always call it. But we started actually originally with underplayed class round robin, where I was trying to play priest and rogue. But why didn't I play rogue? Because it vanished, haha. And then I pretty much review this like every episode just to keep in context of what I'm doing for the series. So we've done all that. Now again, next was Shaman. Probably Shaman, Paladin, and then Mage. And then we'll save the Death Knight and the Demon Hunter for the very end, because they're so new, maybe. And figure out something to do with those, like the most fun deck we can come up with. We'll have an excuse to use the hero card for Death Knights, because they finally added one, which I forgot now already what it was, but they did add some hero card here. Whereas, and I did play as Death Knight a decent amount when it had come out, but oh yeah, here we go. The Headless Horseman, not really that fun of a mechanic, but you know, it'll at least be in there. So yeah, those ones will come later. But yeah, Shaman, we want to fuck around with Evolve. Mage, we want to do some of the more anti-spell, counter-spell type stuff, similar to this one. Paladin, we could do the Uther the Exodia thing with the fucking 4 horsemen was kind of one fun mechanic, but there's got to be something else I can mix in there too. But before we do that, like I said, we'll take a little hiatus next month and do Whizbang then. ×2. Or like I could do 1 month of the... No, I should mix them together though. That'd be more fun. I could do 1 month of the regular Whizbang just to try the standard decks, and then 1 month of the other Whizbang to try the new decks, whatever they are. I don't feel like I've seen anybody use it yet either. That's the problem with trying to play a card game blind or even a multiplayer game. People always spoil stuff, like in trade chat, or, you know, you should do this thing that you didn't know how to do, but you don't want to necessarily know. You wanted to struggle and try to figure it out over the course of hundreds of hours of play. Like me trying to find master level destruction spells in Skyrim. Like, I don't want to know, but, you know, it'll be spoiled on the other side. Even if I don't use a card because I don't want to see what it does, they'll use it. You should almost just keep that for a cost, because you're not going to get... Like, what a cosmetic combo, though. You got a fucking old god using a... He's a fan of Sargeras, using a Sargeras card back. Yeah, the way the lore became so convoluted, it's like, oh, the reason why they didn't destroy the planet is because they wanted the Titan soul within the planet to... None of this shit was in the lore, you know, originally. They just come up with it, so they try to make it look good for, like, you know, oh, the Void Lords are trying to corrupt the soul, and Sargeras is actually trying to save the soul or take it for his own or something. And so that's why he's trying to destroy Azeroth, so they don't get their hands on it. But also, I don't know, like, it's some weird... convoluted thing like that. So he's actually a good guy for trying to destroy the planet, because he knows that if the Void Lords get their hands on it, they'll be the end of the universe, even though he's already fucking destroying planets. But I guess that is such a bullshit way to try to explain it. The reason why he's destroyed planets all this time isn't because he's simply a bad guy who's been posed as this major villain of the series. Oh no, he's actually destroying Titan souls so they can't be corrupted by the Void Lords. Like, what the fuck is that? It sounds okay when you know, think about it in retrospect, but when it, you know, as the series has been written up to that point, there was no intention of that. Even the Void Lords themselves were sort of a retcon. The old gods were there, but there was never any... I'm talking about, like, way earlier on. Now they just keep adding shit and people eat it right up. That's one thing that triggers me, is like overly defensive fanboys of stuff like that. You see that a lot with Star Wars. Like, there'll be a million retcons, and he'll even admit it was a retcon. Like, George Lucas or Disney could even say, like, oh yeah, we didn't think of this. But yeah, people will still defend it. They'll tell you outright, like, oh, I hadn't thought of that yet. But actually, the reason why Mace Windu uses a purple lightsaber is because he's split between light and dark, even though he would tell you Samuel Jackson wanted a purple lightsaber. That's why he has one. Now they can try to explain it in universe, and that's fine, but it doesn't mean that that was actually the intention or anything like that. Let's see here. See, we just don't get to last long enough to actually be able to do anything. I feel like this kind of has misrepresented the deck, though. Yes, you have a lot of these buffs that are shitty, too. That's the whole premise of this deck, is to use the AoE buffs on the untargetable elusive minions. But the point is that it almost takes the luster out of it now that they're called that, because I'm just a hipster. I use the mechanic, or I like the mechanic because it had such a weird name, or because it didn't have a name. Now it feels all gentrified or something. But yeah, I'm just not going to last long enough to be able to do this, which is so stupid. You got to have, like, the best case scenario, and even in the best case scenario, it's still not that good. Like, I'm just not getting anything. Like, let me actually count, after I lose this game, the number of buffs. Courage will fail. But not against me, against a better opponent. But yeah, half these people are going to be fucking bots anyway. They got rid of the, obviously, the ability to see ranks a long time ago, so you always wonder about that. Whether it's even, well, I guess then they would hide the username too, which only says that because I turned that on, just because it doesn't really matter to me. But we'll end up playing like some big streamer or somebody, and it'll be a big deal. I remember I beat Amaz in an arena game once on my old channel. That was kind of a fun moment, where, like, I overcommitted and he just didn't have an answer for it, but reasonably I should have, you know, it was a ballsy play to make. I don't remember ever playing Crypt. It would have happened, though, with the amount that I fucking played Arena. But I'm certainly not on his level. He was an Arena god. Like, I would average, you know, 6 to 7 games. He would average, like, 8 or something more. which is honestly unbelievable with all the and like there'd be these salty crypt compilations, but despite all the salty moments, he still was averaging fucking 8 wins. So like, how is that even possible? You'll see like, oh, look what a bullshit way in which he lost, but like in other words, that would be the only way that he would lose. 10-year anniversary, yeah, our reward for which is the fucking elusive keyword. Thank you very much. Play 3 games. It's just amazing that negligence, that they just didn't care about it, or they never thought to address it. Play 3 games of Shaman, Warlock, or Warrior. I mean, none of this is going to happen. It's almost tempting me to want to play Shaman with that, but miniaturize or mini. The only thing mini about my deck is its actual quality, just the fact that it sucks, but or the number of wins we're going to get with it. But no, like, let me just see this interaction once properly as a proper send-off for this kind of underwhelming Druid experience. At least some of the other ones have been fun, period. Here you have to work for it a little more, and it's just not really coming together. Oh, I wanted to count like how many buffs are actually in here, because it seems like that's all we're getting ever. There's a lot of shitty ones that were bad even at the time, and you know, as old as some of these cards are. But no, they cucked the elusive mechanic in 2 senses. They never gave us a name, but they also didn't give us too many minions for it either. Like there was Fairy Dragon, the GOAT card of the whole game, because if it wasn't for that, then you wouldn't have gotten any other ones over time, right? They introduced the mechanic there, so they felt like they had to do more. But then you got like this one and a couple other ones, Spectral Knight. But then for a super long time, until Galakron came out, right, they never added any other ones, and then Galakron accounts for most of them still in the game, like this one and the other 7/7 Draconid and the other whatever. I think the 6/8 for Druid is also from that, maybe. Yeah, Sogoth is one thing that's missing in here, even though he's not arguably that good, considering, you know, compare him to the 7 mana 7/7 versus a 9 mana 5/8. They both have taunt, they both have elusive, so. But whatever, it would just be in here for the sake of it. Or even this day buffed twice over. He never had taunt, and he was never 14/14. It's always interesting how they randomly decide to do stuff like this. I almost shouldn't even hit that. I should save it for something better. Not the first time I've said that. But no, this will be the last time we get to see Cthulhu, because we won't be using a Druid, obviously. Or like, how does the cosmetic even work then with that? I forget. Does it just go with whatever class you chose, Whizbang? No, I mean, it couldn't, obviously. It'll go with whatever class's deck it chooses to give you. But I guess with the new one, that's always a legitimate question, because what if the deck you're getting is, like, not a real deck? So maybe you'll just become Whizbang himself, because it'll be like, oh, it's an evil deck. But evil deck is who? Maybe it'll fit you into a class, or maybe it'll just be kind of throw classes out the window and just let you use something else. Like a mixture between other stuff, or it'll just be other cards that don't really exist. I have no idea. I somehow don't even want to do that. Like, I'll save the poison. Of course, one of the big counters to this deck, there's several counters. One is you actually are using a good deck, period. That counters is pretty hard. Number 2 is you use AoE a lot, because then I can't, you know, elusive isn't going to protect you from that. But then the buffs will, because it'll be like a, you know, 7 mana 14/14. Now your AoEs aren't going to work anymore. Number 3 is going to be, but there are some crazy AoEs that like just destroy everything, period, regardless of health value too. Number 3 is if it's like a really fast-paced, board control heavy deck where they beat me on the board, even though the whole point of this is to take advantage of the board. And then I guess some control decks that can last you out too can be very good for that. Divine Shield is kind of cute. It's hard to say, like, what would be better, Divine Shield or the 3 health? It almost would be basically the same thing. But if you do the math, you're... Oh, shit. I shouldn't have done that. If you did the math, you would have seen that... If you would have done the math, you would have seen that the 3 health would have been better, because some of that was going to hit less than 3, so I actually misclicked that. But we're in a good spot. Again, unless you have AoE here, you're kind of fucked. So this is the moment that you live for. Right? This is one of my card game fetishes, as I call it. Like, this powerlessness that you give them, like, oh, you can't do anything. Even if you have removal, right, you can't do anything about this board. Even if you summon something big, I have the poisonous waiting in the wing. So this was like my Jinzo spell canceller stuff that I would do in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, it's more important to make your opponent feel powerless than it is to actually just simply beat them. Or it's more important, just in the terms of my gimmick decks, like, it's more important to win your way than to simply win. So now The rush we could, I guess, save for some other time. Yeah, even that, you get punished. So we were missing a couple of things in here that we definitely have to put in the mage deck. Trogzor, and then also, you know, the legendary Trog that summons a 3/5. So even the one thing that isn't elusive is going to punish you for playing spells nonetheless. So like Lotheb makes spells cost more even though he's not elusive. Trogzor summons a Trog if you play a spell. Obviously these things get stronger if you play a spell. So the theme is still there no matter what. And so at this stage we get to maybe do that, or but look at what he had to do to go through to actually get that. And guess what? You waste all those spells in suboptimal ways, or you know, you're holding them back for something you can use it on, but we keep doing it relentlessly. So at some point you're gonna get burned out. Like, you will just not have any fucking spells to use, or you won't be able to use them on anything, because no matter how many fucking AoEs you're gonna have, you're gonna run out at some point. But some decks are just still too high value. Like, they'll just beat you because they have power creep cards, not because of any thematic actual reason. Which this kind of thing is fun in a twist mode too, for that purpose. Like how I was able to use Renounced Darkness in twist mode, but only kind of, because it bugged out and didn't work the whole time. But it makes more sense because you'll have a better chance there at least than, you know, you'll have a better chance with that than actually. I'm just gonna go fucking face, I don't give a shit. You'll have a better chance there. Like, how do you deal with this board? Like, what are you gonna fucking summon a Twisting Nether because you'll generate some spell that you don't normally have in before that's actually what it is? Because even then you'd have to deal with the Reborn, right, of one of these, and you can't even fucking ping it. But no, the whole fun of that is just like, yeah, the twist mode is sort of aligned with some of my intentions. Like, I was able to use the fucking Warlock deck, their Renounced, that I was using anyway in Twist. I was able to use one of the Warrior decks, I can't remember which, either Explore Angora or Zinazari. One of them fit into, I think it was Angora, because even the expansion was Angora at the time. The name of the twisting was something, you know, Return to Angora. So look at the way it overlaps so well. And then I used Whizbang, you know, in December to segue into the next class that I was playing, like a Hunter. And then Whizbang is the next expansion that comes out too. So a lot of these things have been sort of fortuitous. And then they add the elusive keyword right when I'm using an elusive inspired deck anyway too. I mean, the point is you're just not going to be able to deal with this. I almost don't want it to be over so soon, but at least that is a fun interaction and mechanic. And you can almost guarantee this is a deck that nobody's really ever played because it's not very good. Not because, oh, it's so unique or novel of an idea. But remember, I made this kind of deck. Let me try to see. Okay, I'll do two things. I'll count the number of spells, or because like why we keep getting mana screwed. Okay, we have 1, 2, or basically buffs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even though this one almost doesn't count. 6 because you can always summon it. 7, 8, 9, 10. That's maybe like up to 15, right? Like almost half of it is just useless buffs, but some of them are at least good for reactive purposes like spreading plague and stuff, and that actually does synergize with the AoE buffs still, because if you summon a lot of them, right, any of the AoE buffs is going to work with that. But I don't have any like removal or AoE myself. I'm playing this kind of like how I play Magic the Gathering, because I always play as green and I always play on the board and stuff, but you know, it's kind of fitting because you're a druid. But I never enjoyed druids as much as you would think, given how much I love green and Magic the Gathering. So even though, you know, this game copied Magic in that way, it kind of fucked it up because it doesn't deliver. You know, there were certain cards that I liked, but overall, the whole the way that they handle all this mana creep, wild growth and stuff isn't quite as fun for me. But what was the other thing I wanted to see? Like, I want to see the number of those, so it's only like half the deck, so it's a little bit hard to do. Oh yeah, I want to see, like, let's look at elusive again. Like, I was the kind of guy who used it before, though, even these things, you know, would have come into style, right? So this was Galakron, right? Galakron, this one doesn't even count, doesn't count. Like, I would use 2 fairy dragons and 2 of these, and that was obviously Galakron, and 2 of these, and, you know, Galakron, this is even newer, this was the Badlands. Which, that's all we get. We get like a breadcrumb. The first one they add since fucking, unless they added a class one, the first one they added since Galakron, and it's just one thing after like how many years of waiting. So I'd have Sogoth, So it might have been around then, or it might have even been before. So count the number of evasive minions I would have had. I guess I could recreate this one just to show you the point, right? Like, I would have used it before there even were that many in the game. So, like, what would be here? You would have only... Well, actually, when did that come out? Journey to Ungoro. So presuming I could have used that. I don't think I really did it as Hunter much, because it really wasn't... And in fact, there were no mage ones at all. It was just... The whole value of it is that you would be using counterspell and stuff. You would have like 2 counterspells, 2 spellbinders or something, and then you would have 2 of the Trogs. You would have Trog Zor. You would have Sogoth. So you really would be sort of, you know, trying to maximize the few that you had. So let's count the number of cards. 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A lot of these other ones wouldn't be playable. 7, and then maybe just like 8, 9 for the Trogs, and 10 for Trog Zor, then 11 for Lotheb. So you have 11 cards there, and then a lot of the rest of it would just be... I almost should recreate that one when I go to do Mage or something, right? Just to show how shitty it really would have been. Just to kind of show you what that deck would have looked like. Even though we don't even have some of the cards, but I guess I can still put them in there as placeholders just to show you. So we would have made this deck, right, without even fucking having what we have here. Sogoth. Or no, I guess it doesn't. It should let you do that just for, as a placeholder, just to show the fuck. I'll have to put it as a no, like, okay, you would have Sogoth, you would have Trog times 3. I feel like there were some other weird ones. You would have Lotheb, which we can actually put in here, or we can actually put the Trogs too, right? So it'll be, what do you call it? Sogoth and Trog Zor. We'll know what that means because the other Trog is in here, and the lower cost Trog weren't even really worth it because they're too easy to get rid of. But these were kind of fun. Now at this point, trying to think how you would fill out the rest of the deck, you would have like. Again, you would have 11 cards, and so I don't know what else we would even use in here that would counter spells or cuck them in some way. You would have like 2 counter spells. You would have like 2 anything to do with it, like spellbender or whatever it is. Oh, you would have like, I'm forgetting some of these, like the Nerubian Unraveler and stuff. Right, this is the kind of thing you would do to complement. So even though these aren't elusive, right, trying to make the best of it, this is where this whole archetype for mine comes from. You were trying to squeeze that mechanic as much as you can, but then you realize, oh, there just aren't enough ones in the game, so now you combine it with something else where it still complements the idea that not only are my minions immune to spells, but the ones that aren't are going to make it cost more for you to still do that. And then I had like that Alana chick in there somehow, because like, oh, this would make my spells cost more. So what a crazy synergy. Like, you would do... you know, you would do a 5 mana spell normally or something, or that wouldn't cost 5, and now it does. So then it counts for Alana's thing where she summons more dragons because of it. So it's just to show the point of like, this is what we would have done. You would have literally like 3 elusive minions because that's all you would have been able to use in the game, right? And I guess maybe Sogoth makes it 4, but there were no like special class ones either that you could even use as mage. At least Druid gets the Tyrantus, or not Tyrantus, what's it called? So that's like the coolest one too, even though he's better now. Or it is Tyrantus, why did I doubt myself? That's one of the coolest ones, but it's one of those that you wouldn't really get to play, right? Because the game would be over by then. But imagine trying to use it in this day and age. Although I do appreciate them buffing some of my favorite cards like that. Just randomly make it a 14/14 and give it taunt. Let it live up to the power creep, and it's still not going to be that good. Or give Lotheb, or not Lotheb, give Iron Juggernaut a Death Rattle, like all these kind of things. Or yeah, fuck it, give Lotheb one too. So it's both a Battle Cry and a Death Rattle that your spells will cost 5 more next turn, right, when you kill it.
Versus Valera.
That would be pretty sick, actually. And it still wouldn't be that busted because, you know, in this day and age, that's what you'd almost expect. So you keep this because, again, your curve is kind of a little bit harsh, and you're going to get a lot of these shitty buffs. We established that we have too many of them in there, but it's like a 1 copy of each card desire that I have. And I had like Frostlit Jaina and stuff. I gotta find the exact deck list for that, because even though it would be garbage, and there's no reason to even do that now, it's just sort of a throwback to show what that was all about. right? So between all that, you only have a few elusive minions, but you have a lot of other things that are punishing spells. And I should have the Nerubian and Unraveler in this one too, but I'm not even sure. I almost feel bad for using the Panther that way, because I even said I should almost only be allowed to use it as an AoE buff, but then you realize you're never going to get that chance because you're getting curve screwed in every single one of these games. Okay, dude. You never know whether they're actually using a good deck or not, because I don't even know what the decks are going to be, but this is the kind of shit that you're going to have to deal with. Which I could still deal with this against most classes, but obviously the rogue can just poke it. In fact, like, the whole elusive thing might not matter as much against rogues, because sure, it'll hurt some of their removal, but their weapons will be fine, and even some of their AoE stuff will be fine. Like, yeah, Fan of Knives is such a good AoE. No, like, Vanish will still fuck them over. Like, there's just nothing I can do, so it's already over. Yeah, we do have the Unraveler in here. So this is like a one copy of each card deck, whereas the mage one will have to be doubles, or maybe it won't, because we do have so many more evasive. See, like, this is so fun and interactive. Like, there's nothing I could do there. And you could say it's my fault for using such a shitty deck, but, or I could have done the Spectral Knight. I just kind of gave up, though. Because it wouldn't have done anything. Like, you could easily just kill it, and sometimes the taunts will save you. Like, you'll be on turn 6 going into 7, and you just barely survive, and then they can't deal with the Draconid and stuff, but it wouldn't take a very good meta deck to beat me anyway. But you could never tell. Or, you know what they should have given is some feedback if somebody's using the whiz-bang deck, like the old one at least. You wouldn't know, right? Because it would never show you that. They would just be using the deck and appear to be using it naturally. Whatever standard, you know, class deck they're using. So Whizbang should show you the same way that it shows you, like with Balcazar at the beginning of the game, or somebody like that. Or I think I somehow gamed the system with it, and like I was using it as a, what was that? Where like I used a class that you weren't supposed to use, and it kind of bugged out almost. Like I used it as a Death Knight, even though there were no Death Knight standard decks that you could use, or something like that. I can't remember. Just to show like, oh, that was the class that you're using. Technically, even though it doesn't matter what class you're using, because it's just gonna choose it for you anyway. So we've seen at least like one fun interaction moment here. And again, sometimes it can happen even if you lose, where you still get something crazy. But like the coolest moment from one of these sessions was like the Podir thing that I just put in there just as a filler card. I can't remember what deck that was. And I put it in there just to, you know, it had nothing to do with the theme of the deck. It was maybe the Hunter deck even, or something like that. But we're just getting decked out, and we're clearly going to lose, and then we win because of it. I doubt I would really want that, but I mean, you're going to get stuff that you can't play anyway. Like, why can't I just get a normal curve game and see if they can deal with that? Like, that's not bad. 2 and 4. So now I just need like a 5. Turn 3 is really the weak point of this deck, because there really isn't one that fits into that, right? You need to play as a hunter and do this, so you can use Bear Shark, but then you won't be able to use a lot of other things. Like, it's something as simple as that can trigger my interest in making a theme for a deck. Like, there's one elusive minion for this class that they have, so therefore we'll make a whole elusive deck based around it, just because it gives you that little extra boost. Like, we get one extra elusive minion, or I guess 2 in that case, and that's all it takes. Like, even Druid would be inspired by that. Like, oh, Tyrantus. Is this the same fucking person, or is everybody just using the same deck? Because we get Tyrantus, we get to, you know, we get to make a whole deck around that. But really, it was the AoE buffs too, which I can't think of too many better uses for the AoE buffs than this. Like, sure, they might just be good in general. Or I mean, with like a Swarm deck where you just flood the board, then it doesn't matter whether they're evasive or not. But evasive, now I'm going to keep saying that. But they even fucked that up. They fuck it up 3 ways. That they made us wait so long, that they didn't make enough minions over the years, that they used the wrong keyword even when they did, when it should be evasive. Although I don't mind elusive, it's just, why name so many of the minions evasive when they're, you know, maybe they don't want to make it feel redundant. It already has evasive in the name. But that's basically them unofficially giving it that keyword, so a lot of people called it that. I think elusive was almost like a fan term that people just said. Right, like over the years, that's what they just extrapolated to think it would mean. Like, what the fuck is this, bro? But yeah, we got to do some gimmick like Mimiron's head deck. Like we almost tried to fit that into Iron Juggernaut, but it would never happen. Like, there's a lot of other fun or newer ideas even too that you could do, but I'm just kind of stuck in the past because I either don't have enough dust or I don't. But you know what it should be? Since we started with this whole class round robin with Priest and Rogue, even though we didn't do Rogue, to show like, oh, those are our underplayed classes, then we should end off by playing Demon Hunter and Death Knight. But guess what we should do with those? We should actually play a meta deck with those and actually try to ladder a little bit. But my problem with that is I simply don't have enough time because these sessions are always so short unless I like filled it in on another day or something. Because I play once a week for like an average of literally like an hour. So what the fuck am I supposed to do with that? I guess an aggro deck could be adequate, but yeah, I should almost try to use like a standard / meta deck though with one of those. Or I should sort of try to come up with a gimmick deck because I haven't really done that with those classes because they're so new that I never really had the chance. I tried to make like a stealth focused deck with the Demon Hunter, even though it doesn't make sense. Like there's no real synergy to it. It just happened to, let's just use every stealth minion in the game combine. And these are my kind of things that I go for, which can be kind of fun, but they're just like, they're really, really bad. And it would only be fun if other people were doing similar things. I got to be a big streamer and create my own tournament format with all these kind of gimmick shit decks that I come up with. And see which one beats which, because they're all equally bad. One of the many reasons to enjoy Wild, because you get all this variety of music and arenas in addition to decks. Like the same people who complain, oh, the meta is stale, also you play standard. Like what the fuck? And sure, Wild might have crazy imbalanced stuff, but it's not like standard doesn't either. Like you think that seeing the same few decks over and over is a sign of balance? No, it's just a sign of power creep, and the newest cards and certain ones among them are going to be considered the best. And then they'll eventually nerf it, but until then you take advantage of it. That's literally what the meta in almost any game ever is. It's like something new will come out and people will pretend like, oh, everything's perfectly balanced, and it'll dominate. One thing in particular will dominate, and then oh, it'll get nerfed, and then people will be like, oh yeah, of course it should have been nerfed because it was busted. That's the whole reason why it was so good and everyone was using it and being successful with it. Like, it just, don't pretend to have the illusion of balance. So it's not to say that Wild or historic formats where it's like open-ended and you can use anything throughout the history of the game, it's not to say those are balanced, but it's to say that, you know, it doesn't matter. Just embrace the whole fun and the whole variety of things you can combine together. But everybody wants to be all egotistical about it. Okay, this might be fine because the taunt is kind of more important now than that. This is arguably not even that good of a card because they'll often just remove it in one shot. But the idea is if you have other things on the board, then they'll, well, then they won't be able to target those, so it's not really that meaningful. I swear there was some interaction with Trogzor where like you would have Trogzor out there and they would play a spell and I would like counterspell it. I guess it must have been the Spellbender. So think about this ultimate cuck play that you show them. You have Trogzor out there, so whenever you use a spell, it summons a 3/5 Trog, right? And it buffs them too in the same breath, but somehow that would sometimes work and sometimes wouldn't, so I forget. It would be all the same spell. But you have like counterspell, so it would still summon the Trog, even though you couldn't get your spell off. Or like it would absorb it with the Spellbender, but it would still summon the Trog. So like, you're getting the worst of both worlds. You're getting punished for playing a spell, but you don't even get the benefit of playing the spell. But I feel like when I went back to play it, those weren't working anymore. Like, it wouldn't, when it got counterspelled now, it would no longer summon the Trog, or it wouldn't summon it and buff it together at the same time, something like that. But I definitely remember those interactions. So either it was a bug then, or it's a bug now, or they changed it at some point, which seemed like a really oddly specific thing to change about a card that probably nobody is ever using. So it's like no fun allowed. Like it'll be some garbage mechanic that isn't even good and nobody's actually even using it, but they'll still fuck it up because, oh, it's not meant to work that way. Like that was the ultimate fun police moment in the history of gaming, period. Is like I'm trying to use Renounced Artist in the twist mode just to have fun with it, and I might have a better chance to win with it here than, you know, in Wild, because I won't get my ass beat quite as hard, because it's like, you know, in Twist it's usually going to be a lower standard than Wild because they're using less things, so it makes it a little more balanced, I guess you could say, the same way as just mocking for standard the illusion of balance. But I couldn't even fucking use it then, so like what the fuck, man. And the Steam Cleaner is my poster child, my poster card for showing anti-fun. Like, oh, we made this imbalanced mechanic like the Jade Idol. Ha ha ha. Let's just put a card in the game that just hard counters Jade Idol, like that or Skulking Geist, right? But those two cards also counter some of my favorite fun mechanics of all time. So if people happen to be using them at those times to counter the meta things, like they'll use Skulking Geist to counter Jade Idol, but it'll also fuck over Explore and Goro, or they'll use the Steam Cleaner to deal with some other, you know, bullshit deck like that. Something that's meta and OP that people are complaining about, so it's a hard counter that's not interactive at all, right? It's just like if you're using that, you just lose, right? But then it'll also fuck over all my other decks like Zinazari and Renounced Darkness and stuff. Again, decks that are not good and that shouldn't be exposed to such things that I'm just trying to use to have fun. But no, you can't even have fun because they're just gonna, like, think about that interaction. I use Renounced Darkness and they play Steam Cleaner and I just lose the game because my whole deck's gone, pretty much. Like, there might be a few other things in there, but it's so, like, hard counter in a direct sense. It may as well just kill your hero right there. If they're using one of these decks or these cards, you just auto resign. Just give me a decent curve, bro. Like, that's not too bad. And again, these buffs are not good by any metric, but there was some interaction with this at least. Like, how did I get this to actually... What did I do to summon Treants? Oh, there's some other buff card that...
Grant you permission to speak. Thank you.
Like, there was some other card that either lets you buff your things or summon Treants. So if you summon the Treants, then this cost will actually go down. So that's some sort of internal synergy that almost just wasn't intended. 40 health shenanigans over here. Wait, what? Wait, how do you even... Wait, didn't they make that 35? When did... What, they changed it back? Wait, I gotta look this up now. What the fuck happened? Renathal. So they nerfed it and then they buffed it again. I'm so confused. Renathal, Hearthstone, all these fucking random changes that they make back and forth like this. That would be the biggest clown thing ever. So it was overpowered, so they... Okay, I gotta... Hold on. Or is it because he did something else and I'm just not even paying attention? Whatever. Let's do that. 2023, 627. Now reads, your starting health is 35. When did they... He didn't do anything that we see in the backlog. I'm so confused. This guy's actually cheating. But it says it right on the card. Don't get it. Because I looked it up that it wasn't changed. Renathal buff, Hearthstone. Prince Renathal unnerfed. Wild. Oh, maybe it's because it's in wild. I'm so confused. Of course, the nerf was unnecessary in my opinion. I think it was pretty necessary. I mean, everybody was using the card, so maybe that tells you maybe something's not right with it. Like, that's always the best way to tell. When 100% of people use a card, pretty much, in the meta, maybe something's wrong with it. So that was at least their attempt to try to balance it out a bit. Maybe it's too strong. Even then, everybody was pretty much still using it, so... It almost didn't matter what kind of deck they were using. I mean, even some fucking aggro decks felt like they were using it. Just because, oh yeah, we'll outlast their, like, aggro versus aggro. We'll outlast their aggro with our own fucking dumb shit. This is almost what we're doing because you just have nothing else going on anyway. You probably shouldn't be able to win a matchup like this. Start of your next turn. Okay, dude. Not really too crazy, but the one thing they fucked up about this game is the Fellstalker, that it has nothing to do with the effect. It should have something to do with, like, you know, they just did that for politically correct reasons, like, oh, the succubus is too sultry. So instead of making it, like, thematically it should be a succubus, that's fine, but instead they just don't cover up her cleavage or something or make a more friendly version. That's where, like, China and certain other countries dictate things, like, oh, if the game is playable there, then... You know, or some countries are more sensitive, then they cater to that. Rather than just, again, maybe make an alternate version for that version, or like everybody has to suffer just because somebody gets offended. Or even, you know, just make it look different. You don't have to change the whole essence of the card.
Drink with me, friend.
Yeah, which creature is more iconic in the universe that people would either be annoyed by or find cute? The kobolds or the fucking murlocs? I guess murlocs are pretty iconic. Which is like merfolk in Magic the Gathering, I guess. Or in other RPG contexts. All these things you might be duped into thinking are original, that everything is copied, like even EverQuest ruins WoW, but it really doesn't, no matter how good it is, or no matter how much they borrowed from it, but it's at least good to keep it in context. Like, for example, The Departed. If you like The Departed, watch Infernal Affairs, which was the movie it was based on, right, from Hong Kong, where, you know, it's like a Chinese movie that is, what do you call it? It's the same plot, basically. So that is a better movie for its originality, and even if there's some things that are better about The Departed, you at least have to, wow, like, it puts it into context. Everything you thought was so impressive there, it's like, oh, well, it's easier to do it now that you have the whole story and scene by scene kind of written out for you. So that's what Bollywood often does. Like, if you live in India and you watch a lot of Bollywood movies or something, and you've never seen what they're based on, you'd be so impressed, like, wow, this is so good. But then you realize, oh, it just copied this movie scene by scene, line by line, and like, what the fuck? And they do it so notoriously, like, where it almost becomes a joke. I mean, that's why it's called Bollywood in a way, but it shouldn't have been characterized like that. It just means it's inspired by it, not that it's like B-list Hollywood. That's why it's called Bollywood. But no, like, they'll copy stuff so blatantly, and they won't even necessarily buy the rights for it or anything, or pay for anything. They'll just do it, and nobody cares, I guess, enough to punish them, because they just churn movies out. That's their whole historical brag. It's like, you know, they just we make the most movies of anybody. Yeah, elusive, nice one, dude. Almost like the death rattle protection could be of a certain amount of value. Yeah, that's like admitting quantity over quality. Like, oh, we want to make the most, but that doesn't mean that they're the best or that they're good. Not even to be like a show for Hollywood. Obviously, Hollywood makes a lot of garbage too, but the majority of what you're going to make is garbage, but at least don't brag about how many movies you make. We're actually doing pretty good in this matchup, but the problem is as it goes on, we're probably going to get destroyed. I maybe should have played one of those first, but I kind of just want to flood the board a bit, and I doubt he's going to play a spell that's going to be that crazy. He'll play that one legendary card that costs exactly 9, right? That I can't even remember the name of. I'm really bad with remembering card names, actually. Because I almost don't even care. I just come up with my own pet name for it. The name dropper says hello. He's playing like very slow, which makes me worried that the end of your turn deal 2. I mean, look, dude. I'm going to lose to my own mechanic because it's just way too strong, right? I won't be able to use the buff still. You almost have to play it this way, I guess. It's almost not even worth it to do the 2-2. Right, because like, what would that even have done? Now he'll still end up killing everything with that because I just can't deal with it. Now we're going to end up losing in some roundabout way, but at least if we had gotten... That's what you really have to get on curve, is Lorthamar. Get an early good curve where you can just play minions on the board and get through the early game. Then you play Lorthamar, and then once you play stuff, now they're not going to be able to deal with it because it's already hard to get rid of, courtesy of being elusive, but now it becomes even more hard to get rid of because it's just too well statted. So that's the whole point of the deck, is to revel in those kind of crazy 10-18 Sogoth, who's also elusive, also taunt, or all these other crazy things you can do. At this stage, there's basically going to be nothing I can do, though. Maybe the taunts you can get away with doing. Like, let's see how many of these fucking things he can get through, but probably all of them, and probably pretty fucking easily. Just because they feel like it. But, like, now he'll kill it with that and resummon it. Or he should just use the weapon, though. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? You deal with it that fucking easily, man. Nice game, bro. That's so dumb. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to deal with it, but you should just hit me with the weapon too, because now you're really saving it for some other extra shit that I have, but I really don't have anything. So dumb, dude. There's like no sense of honor. You can't see what kind of deck I'm using. You should just like lose on purpose, but this doesn't matter because Like, nothing fucking matters. I'll just have to do that and just deal with that. I'm still not necessarily dead, but if he had just used his weapon, it would be over. But I'm not getting Lorthamar on the right curve, or I'm not getting anything on the right curve. It's just all fucked up because... I don't know. Although this game was going kind of okay, but it's almost like he's just holding back. Isn't this fucking dumb? Like, what's going on? Or I guess if I had a simple removal card in this whole deck for anything. I don't have a single spell like that that's gonna destroy anything or whatever. Right? Any sort of removal for their side, hard removal, straight up damage, nothing. Right? It's all just buffs for my own shit. Which is deliberate, obviously, but it has its weaknesses. Kind of like a Magic the Gathering deck I would use, or even, that's my favorite part thematically to show my intent. Like, I don't have any removal cards except for, like, Master's Rebuke, which is like you take your minion's attack on the board and use it to hit your opponent with. So it's like, if you just, this would be so good if I could actually buff it, but unfortunately I just can't do that. Imagine if I actually still came back, but he could have won at any time if he just fucking used his weapon. Like, I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, it's just like you basically get to... Come on, at least let some of these stick around and then I can buff them. But he's gonna have another AoE, man. Death Knights have more AoEs than fucking mages in 2023, 2024. Oh my god. Or he's just the simple minion effect is gonna do that. Yeah, Master's Rebuke. Like, even that's dependent. I don't always have removal, but when I do, it's still focused on me having stuff on the board and using that to hit you with, rather than, you know, just straight up removal out of the hand, to show you how much I value board control and don't care about a lot of other things. So this is not such a bad thing to do, but maybe you could do two things together. 2/2, I mean 4/4 is pretty good, and it'll give me almost a pseudo Lorthamar effect to the extent that you're basically able to try and, you know, everything that we get now is going to be stronger, but I mean it shouldn't be that hard for him to finish me off. It almost seems like he is trying, but he keeps forgetting that he has that weapon. Couldn't he have just hit me in the face with it that one turn? At least this one's going on for a suitably epic amount of time, but I don't know. It would be pretty awesome if we won. Even if they go easy on me or something like, oh, they're just trolling, and then I end up winning, I'll still take it because it's so rare that we're going to get a win like that. But his value is clearly above mine with the amount of shit he has in his hand and everything. How could you not deal with this? Like, you probably have a million more fucking AoEs. Because that's what Death Knights are all about, I guess. Death and decay and this and that. Even though, you know, you don't think of it that way. Come on. But yeah, the way they kind of castrated the design of it was so dumb with the runes. Like, let's restrict it even more than we already are with the class cards in the game. How fun is that? That nobody would defend that mechanic. Like, it just is contrived. If that was the case, why not do every class by spec? You get a survival hunter, you get a, now it's going to be explosive trap or some shit, so I can never even survive. That's 4 random spells. Wouldn't you just do it like on my face? But I guess you could end up healing me. So like, why couldn't you still hit me with your fucking weapon, dude? What are you doing? Well, whatever, dude. We do like maybe one more just to try to get some fun interaction. The last one, I guess. Because yeah, we'll cut this month short just because this is an extra month for it, and the next time I'll try to do Whiz Bang in some form. I'll try to do the other Whiz Bang, the you know, the new one, of course. So I'll mix them together. I'll play as one until the other one loses, and this and that, which is maybe a little bit even disingenuous because I had done that permanent. I guess it's been long enough though. It's been like basically 4 months. I had done it leading into New Year's that it was like a permanent thing for. It was a permanent thing for Whizbang, but I guess it was just meant for that particular session. And what a perfect excuse to use him, because the whole fucking expansion is about him, but I obviously didn't know that was happening. But no, I mean, it's something I could do at the beginning of any expansion anyways, just to try the standard decks from it. Okay, that's all good. You get rid of, I mean. Oh, fuck, we're gonna get curve fucked again, dude. Come on, at least let me have one good send-off game. Give me the Fairy Dragon. That's fine. Although, yeah, I'm gonna have some trouble dealing with it still. Okay, that's not terrible, but I mean, you're grateful for a 4 cost because you're just not gonna have anything till then anyway. If you get the perfect curve, it can be okay, but even then, the value just isn't there.
Reporting for duty.
Right, this is still fine, because at least you get rid of one of them. I'll settle for it. It's just too limited in scope, because unless you get things exactly the right way, it just doesn't work.
Reporting for duty.
Alright, so here, you still can't do anything. I mean, if he's just doing these dinky 1/1s, it doesn't really matter. These are called the same thing and will benefit from the same shit, but they just have a different picture, which is maybe a little bit confusing.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah, this is still fine, especially if I get a taunt at some point, but give me that little stupid mech. If I just get something out there and I get it to stick, I'm fine. So how much removal is he really going to have is the big question. And somehow this even fits with Cthulhu, like somehow Cthulhu is above the feeble mortal's attempts to use magic or something, create some sort of RP with it, right? His tentacles are keeping him at arm's reach, where he'll never let you get too close, like Sogoth, so you have to, whatever, sacrifice yourself to get in there to kill him the way that the one guy did. That's why he has the evasive effect. The, whatever, like that's what the implication is, that he had to get close and, you know, die in the process because he's otherwise too hard to get to. So we're kind of role-playing the same element here. Like, that's why it has to do with Cthulhu, I guess. But it was just more an excuse to use the sexy Cthulhu thing. We're still not in a terrible spot, but, you know, we're not going to necessarily be able to deal with this. But again, he's kind of ignoring my board for the time being. We might actually be fine. But the problem is you don't really have much healing here, even though I do have overflow. Moppet stats, okay, dude. See, that what they end up doing is they just end up beating you on the board. That's what's fun about it. Like, you're doing everything right. I did everything I was supposed to, but it doesn't matter. Just like, or this one never had taunt before, so they buffed a lot of these, so I can't really complain. I should almost have popped the Divine Shield, but I almost just don't even care. Like, imagine what it would take for him to get rid of that, and before he just does it with ease, because that's just what all this is. Like, that card back is actually pretty sick. I don't know what that one is. So, yeah, that's the biggest achievement maybe of this game and its history, if you think about it. If you challenged me, make a card game with 30 cards in the decks that isn't like overly simplistic, like PvZ Heroes or something, it'd be very fucking hard to do. That's almost hard to understand exactly how that works so well. Okay, we need some other fucking, I mean, I guess that's the only thing we can really do. Why does it always have to go like this, dude? I just can't last long enough to even see some of the fun interactions. Hey stars, how's it going? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, this is kind of early for me actually. Come on, we can still do it if we just are able to buff these things, but he's able to deal with everything with such relative ease all the fucking time. Oh wow, what a OG card that is. You should get Helldivers. I played Helldivers 1 actually a little bit ago, but you probably mean part 2, right? Okay, maybe we could do 7-5 Trance. Give your minions +2 and taunt, or +2, +4 and taunt. His board's just too good though. There's really nothing I can do about it. Play it with you, deliver democracy to the galaxy. Yeah, maybe I will sometime. Just have to find like a spot in one of my days. I guess Wednesday's the only day I can potentially do something like that. Oh my god, I almost want to do one more just because that wasn't a satisfying enough one to end off on. Fine, we'll give it one more shot, but this is the final. Cthulhu comes back to life, probably like he did in the lore, because of what a clown game it is that wants to keep retconning shit all the time. Which universe has more retcons, Star Wars or Warcraft? Probably it'd be a debate now. It's time to make the galaxy great again. Yeah, it did have that Starship Troopers plus Borderlands kind of vibe to it. That almost seems like what it's based on. It was like a movie where they go around shooting bugs the whole time, and it's just it has that sense of satire to it. Roger Ebert's review: too many bugs. They're shooting too many bugs. 0 out of 10, because that's like all the movie is, or it goes on too long. And bots. But no, the perspective of it was completely different too. I think I've only seen like a couple screenshots of part 2. But the first game is like a top-down overhead kind of view, like the old GTAs or something. So that's an interesting change that they made. I think this one's like third person over the shoulder or something, which is almost what I thought I guess the first one would be like, but you've seen that? We have Helldivers at home, Helldivers at home, and it looks like some dinky little thing from the early 2000s or something. But it was pretty cool too. You have school holiday soon, we should play it then. Okay, we'll see. It's very hard for me to schedule anything because you see how random my schedule is. But I'll also try. But yeah, what was the last game we played? Like that Fortnite, I think? He got me to play Fortnite and destroyed me in a 1v1 thing. Or it felt degenerate, like we're cheating because, you know, we're basically doing a duo and ganging up on people. Fortnite, and then what did Nightmare want to play? He wanted to play like what was that? Oh, like Modern Warfare 2 or something. What were the 2 games he said he had? He has Modern Warfare and he has I can't remember, Minecraft. They're in teams too, but they were AI. Yeah, of course, anytime you do well in something or beat somebody, it must be because they're AI. War Thunder was another popular pick. No, not you, Nightmare. He's some other guy who likes chess, who's always in here. Okay, we might still have a chance if we can do this, but it's going to be very slim. If they just can stick around long enough to get buffed up, that would be the best chance I have. I'm more like the kind of guy who just plays something once though, and then that's it. Like I don't play the same thing over and over. Also, I guess I do, because stuff like this I've been doing for a very long time. But it's like some of these series just won't end, so I'll never have room for anything else really. That's the problem. Hey Prim, how's it going? Is this really how it's gonna end, dude? Lorthamar just let me down, man. He never comes at the right time, or I've never ever able to play him. Now there's not even enough stuff out there to... We have kind of lasted longer than it seems like we should, though, because whenever you summon a taunt like this, now they don't have an answer for it. He's kind of clogged up his own board, but we're just never really going to be able to do anything about it. Our best play might just be to do that, to make a single copy of this, because we're not going to be able to do anything otherwise. Fuck, he won't even let me. Okay, fine. Maybe I'll do one more, just because we want this to end on a good note. Jesus Christ. Just have like one... Even if I don't win, I don't care, but like this is so dumb. I can't even do anything. Okay, last one for sure. We got 3 lives. Cthulhu cheats that twice. It's just so silly how he shoots a laser beam, but he still takes damage for it. Or you could just whack you with a tentacle. Even that would make a little more sense.
I see, but I do not believe.
Yeah, I could make that like a channel points reward too. Like choose which game I play on Wednesday, or like whatever, do like a 2-player stream with it. But I normally don't even do those. I don't even mind them. It's just kind of hard to set up, or I don't like sometimes the undercurrent that like, oh, you're getting helped or carried by somebody, or you're enjoying work. It's okay. Yeah, I'll quit my job and become a professional chess player and just make like minimum wage for being a grandmaster. That's a better career path for me. That would be the real good excuse why you didn't pursue chess, why someone doesn't pursue chess. Not because it's so hard or you're not smart enough, just because it's so time consuming and unrewarding proportional to all of those things. You literally make minimum wage in like the best case scenario. Like what else are you gonna do? I guess the best case scenario is to be a chess streamer though, but the stream is lagging. Okay, see you later. I was actually gonna end with that second to last game, but they just won't give me a good matchup. Maybe this will be. Okay, this is it for sure though, final. I've given them 3 chances. Thanks, see you later. Come on. Just one epic game for the ages.
My awakening brings a new age.
I think I haven't used that grading very much actually. His lines are pretty badass, but his voice just sucks. It's not what it's supposed to be like from the lore, or at least it's not supposed to be what it was in his original state. So this is a stronger awakened version of Cthulhu, but it's not what you want because the weaker one sounded kind of creepier and more iconic, like what you hear in AQ40 obviously, where it's all whispery, like kind of like me, my old whispery ASMR Blue Yeti mic kind of style from my old channel. Or even from the beginning of this one. At least I have that as a reference to kind of compare it. Like, oh, why are you called the One Quiet Gamer? Because obviously that's what it was like. I was just naturally very quiet.
I see.
You better enjoy these voice lines because this is not only the last time I'm playing as this Druid deck, but it's the last time I'm playing as Cthulhu. But visually, I can't argue that this is one of the coolest cosmetics in the history of the game. Like, it's fucking amazing. You get the eye, like the Sauron-looking eye thing. Obviously, that's what you could say Cthulhu was originally based on, but you got the tentacles. Even though they're kind of obnoxious with how they go all over the board, somehow it doesn't really get in the way though still. Yeah, at least we're getting a chance to have some semblance of board control, but it's not like our anti-spell thing is going to hurt a warrior quite as much. But you'll expect that you can brawl or something, and then you just won't be able to. So yeah, hold back for your meta brawl play, and then you'll get fucked by Lothab. It's just like sometimes I don't even know, like, oh, what am I playing around? Because I don't know so many of the new cards, so it doesn't even matter to me. Like from the new expansion, oh, there could be some new card that I've never even seen before. Destroy a damaged minion. Wait, but how? How? What? Oh no, that's not evasive, never mind. Fuck. Oh, you should just have to do this for curve purposes anyway, which is not really that great a use of it, but you know, you sometimes just don't have a choice. These decks will sometimes play themselves. It almost feels like I'm a bot. Just play the curve play on the current turn. Like, it's the turn 6, so I have to play the 6 cost. There's no other nuance to it, because if I don't, what am I waiting for? There is no other larger win condition. We're kind of bullying this guy early, but we're still going to end up losing. Okay, thank God. At least we get that. Now he has to deal with my board, and yeah, warriors are always such fucking pushovers, even though they're arguably my favorite class in this game's history, just because of how much I like armor warrior and some of the other things. Troll people with Dead Man's Hand. They literally had to like ban that in tournaments or something at the time, where it could just like literally go on forever, or they'd have to like set some sort of time limit. Dead Man's Hand versus Dead Man's Hand. Why is it called Dead Man's Hand? Because you'll literally die playing it because of how long it'll go on, because you'll just keep recycling the same thing into your deck over and over forever. Okay, dude. That's not even that big of a deal, but as long as we have the ability to, now you get to see what the deck is all about, because he's already had trouble dealing with my shit, but imagine dealing with it now. Right, it doesn't even matter whether it has taunt or anything, just like you're fucked.
Who here can spell? It was your fault. Anybody?
I maybe haven't even heard some of these lines. Like, I've just never used his emotes. Because, of course, I never make mistakes, but you could say it to them to imply that. His awakening line is, like, when you first enter the game, right? My dreaming ends, your nightmare begins. Or maybe he says something else to other classes, but... I see, but I do not believe is the main one that I've used, obviously. Okay, we're still in a good spot. As long as they don't flood the board early and get me low, then I can recover, because recover from my own shitty state of my deck where I can actually do something. Okay, come on, come on. That was not kind of the draw that you really wanted, because... But it's still okay. We clear the board. You know, you wanted to benefit from the statting that you just got from Lorthamar, which works pretty perfectly with this. It's almost too good, because think about how much work you would go to. I would play a 4-mana spell just to get 1/3, and I have to have them already on the board. Meanwhile, Lorthamar go burr, because he just doubles everything in your deck with no effort at all, so you'll just get +7/+7 for nothing. Like, this is one of the shittiest cards in the history of the game. Like, who would ever use this and why? It was never good in any deck ever, and it's just trash, but... That was my... Oh, man, I don't even get anything from this. Are you serious? That was my first legendary ever that I actually got in this game. The card that doomed my GTA 5 playthrough, because I had gotten a PS5 right then. The story I always tell. I got a PS5... Or not a PS5, a PS3 to play GTA 5, because it wasn't going to be on PC, and I was ready to play that, but then I get a Hearthstone closed beta key, and then it's like, oh shit, now I want to do this, and then I end up enjoying that so much that I don't even play GTA 5 all the way until it comes out on PC like in 2015. So on one hand you could blame console, but on the other hand you could just blame the game itself, or blame Hearthstone for being so fun at that time especially, but blame the mission at the docks where you're playing as Trevor and it's so fucking boring. Right, like, why do I even want to be doing this right now? So then I just play Hearthstone instead. To get rid of that clown. Okay, this is at least the kind of showing we want to see, where even if we lose now, we've gotten the chance to play what we want to do. Now we got a 6-mana 10/10. That's the whole fun with Lorthamar. It'll take these old gimmick cards that were never good, and by doubling their stats, it'll make them maybe remotely adequate for today's standards. Like, this still isn't that crazy. 6-mana 10/10 +2 for all spell costs. Like, it's still not that good. But it's at least what we really would want is some of the taunt still. That was actually a very lucky overflow play, because I got the perfect thing to deal with Grommash, like how I could not only still afford to play it with 9 mana with only 2 left. I almost just ended my turn automatically because I didn't think I'd have anything there, but... Yeah, how many things did they copy with this? They copy Sauron's Eye for Cthulhu, and they copy, you know, the... whatever. They copied the Lovecraft universe, obviously, with the names and the whole lore and stuff behind them. It was one of my favorite elements of the universe, though, the way they presented it. Are you serious? Why is everything so easy to get poisonous these days? The one thing I get... I mean, he almost dies because of it, but how convenient. What am I getting clowned by so hard right now, bro? Just give me a big taunt, because if it doesn't have taunt, then I might have to do the scarabs, which I don't really want to do. Are you serious, bro? Now we could give them some kind of buff here, which I guess this is even makes them adequately annoying. That even as I was just clowning the card, that should always make it relatively hard to get rid of. Runic short sword, poisonous after your hero attacks, draw a card. I mean, he did have to take a lot for that, but that did ruin my whole vibe. Like, why can't it be that one time they just aren't able to deal with it? That's what really gets me. Like, just, I want the thing to stick, and oh shit, I'm powerless, I can't do anything, and I'm fucked. But they always have an answer somehow. We're still in an okay spot, but I mean, we got to get something big really quickly, which most of the things in this deck are like that. Where I always get mana screwed the one way, where I'm getting high cost things at the beginning because I don't have enough low cost. You literally have two. You have the Fairy Dragon and the Chimera thing. That's it as far as 2 costs, and then that stupid Mark of the Wild thing, Power of the Wild. Or then you'll end up getting no what? Oh, here we go. That's good, but it's not really big enough, or it's not a taunt. I mean, let's just do this. Now it'll hurt my ability to play those buffs even more. Alright, we got this one for sure. And sometimes when these decks work, as bad as they are, they actually look pretty good. But it's just like a best case scenario thing. There's no way he should have an answer for this now. Or you can do a 7-mana brawl to try to deal with it. Just give me a taunt though, bro. Okay, at least he's having to go out of his way a lot to deal with this, but he can still use this stupid poisonous thing, which is really debilitating. You could do like all the 7 wisps and give them something, but if it's not taunt, I could be in trouble. You can just whack that, and then you have 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm almost dead. Are you serious? Because that doesn't mean anything to me as health value. You're going to be screwed either way because you... Oh my god. So I might actually just have to adapt the Whisper. I guess I could adapt the Treants. But I guess having more is the point. But even if I get a taunt now, I could still be in trouble. I mean, look, dude. Whatever this is going to have to be good. Whatever, at least we put up a valiant fight, but there's nothing I could really do there. What the fuck? That was at least a more satisfying game to try to go with. But yeah, you can always flood the board with some of these buff cards, so they do have the versatility there. And then buff them too, but it's just not... At least I can't blame Lorthamar on that one, because he did come in clutch. That was like the perfect start that you could ever have, but that poisonous sword just ruined me. Like, what are some of these mechanics now that you have? Like, any scenario you could possibly deal with, you have an answer for it. You don't need spells anymore, even if I'm hard commit to countering them. You can just use a fucking random poisonous blade, and it's just perfect. Like, how convenient is that? And of course, I can't punish him for being low health because, you know, what do you call it? Like, I'm not going to have any damage spells, or I don't have any spells, period, that are not just simply buffs. Yeah, next time we'll start with the whiz-bang thing, where we'll try to have both whiz-bangs and rotate between them for the purposes of trying out the new one and just trying out the new cards and the new standard decks for this expansion. See you tomorrow.